Well, good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Backshed Bible Study. This is Cliff Carey here on a recovering rainy Monday morning here in Fair Oaks. It's 43 degrees outside, and it's maybe 53 here in the shed. I got the heater going, and so I'm doing a little bit better. But I want to welcome you to episode number 49. Golly, I can't believe we've been doing this all this time. And to celebrate a year in the pandemic, I have with me my good friend Tanner Coppernoll joining me today.
How's it
Hello,
going?
Tanner.
It's good to see you, Cliff.
It is good to see you too. This is ridiculously fun for me, and I tell you why. I put it in the caption here, but you're what I like to call you one of my students.
Yes,
um like when I came to Sunrise 7 years ago, you and I were texting last night about this,
crazy.
but when I came to Sunrise 7 years ago, you were one of my first. And
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember, I think you were a freshman that year.
I was. Yeah, because we were talking about how I was going to go the full 4 years with you because of the amount of when you came. I was a freshman
Yeah, and
in that
we
class.
pulled that off,
Yeah,
and a lot of great memories. Hopefully, in the next few minutes, I'll be pulling up a few pictures, and we
yeah,
can just get all kind of reminiscent on that. But
absolutely.
I um, I noticed, Tanner, you have been watching along from time to time here on the
Hmm.
Backshed, and made you make some incredibly astute and spiritually deep comments.
Mm,
So
thank you.
I committed to it in front of everybody else one day and said, let's get you on here. So
Yeah.
we finally made it work out. But oh, and a happy good morning to Valerie Connor. Good to see you here, Valerie, this
Hey,
morning.
Valerie, how's it going?
That's right. And there's Micah Paul on here. He's like, what? Tanner in the back shed?
It's good stuff, man. It's gonna be a
Micah,
good
one of
morning.
these days, if you get a haircut, I'll bring you on the back shed. No, I'm sorry, that was completely out of line.
that was,
That I haven't even seen you in months,
that
Micah.
was
I have no clue what your hair looks like.
could be bald now.
I
Yeah.
think the last time I saw you in person, Micah, there was a lot more hair than there had been the time before. So there you go. Okay, if I keep talking, and Tanner, you know how this works, I am going to get myself in a lot more trouble.
That's
So,
right.
Tanner, you are one of Sunrise's own. You were born and raised in Sunrise, as far as I can tell,
Yep.
and when I became youth pastor back in 2014, and you were in the youth group, you were one of those kids that I was able to get to know really quickly. And like
Yeah.
you looked at there and said, okay, I've got a youth pastor, I'm gonna like commit and
Hmm.
go all in, and it just made it easy to be your youth pastor, and we had some great time in there. Tell us, as somebody that grew up at Sunrise and now you're out in the big
Hmm.
bad world, what you're up to these days.
Yeah, man. Well, I want to first affirm you and your ministry and how impactful it was on my life, still is impactful on my life. And I've been reminiscing a lot lately actually on Sunrise days. I have been the past couple of months, years. I mean, I look back to Sunrise and I marvel at the system, the culture, everything about Sunrise. No regrets at all. I
Yeah.
love Sunrise and look forward to reuniting with people there. But um yeah, I mean, the impact that Sunrise had on my ministry, I still try to implement things from Sunrise into my own ministry at First Baptist Church of Auburn, where I'm a youth counselor there and a small group leader. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So doing that, I'm also a Sunday school teacher at AGCC, which is Abundant Grace Chinese Church. And so there
Do
I'm
tell me more. I am
yes.
I am so fascinated by it. I have a Chinese daughter.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm gonna name drop Dan Barber is the
Of course.
yes, he's the one that got me connected to AGCC, and man, it has been incredible. The students are incredible there. They actually use the building for First Baptist Church of Orangeville.
Orangevale, yeah.
Yeah. And so every other week, at least once a month, I'm their Sunday school teacher there. I teach them the truth in the word and
I
do the
love
best
it.
I can. So
Um, and in your spare time, you a full-time student?
yes, I am.
You
I
go,
I go to Moody Bible Institute. So yes, I'm doing that full time, working full time at Amazon currently. So
are you down at the big facility down there by the airport? Is that where you
not by the
go?
airport, no. Yeah, I'm actually by McClellan Air Force Base. Yeah,
I got it.
small
I
place.
I have landed an airplane at McClellan before.
I'm sure you have.
Taken back right back off 3 times,
Yeah.
I think, on the same runway. Um, I'm starting to make things up. So I think it would be fun. I think it would be really fun. And people are commenting here. People know you. You're kind of just part of our family.
Yes.
But take us through a little bit of your spiritual journey.
Mm,
Let's go through the last 4 years or
sure.
even beyond that, and just how God has drawn you in,
Mm,
called you, some of the things that He's used in your life
mm.
to bring you to where you are today. I want to talk about your upcoming wedding,
Yes, sir.
and you got to tell us all about Caitlin
Yes.
and that. But yeah, tell us a little bit. Bring us up to speed on Tanner's life.
Yeah, so for most of you, you guys remember me as the troublesome kid a little bit in at Sunrise.
I prefer to say squirrely, but
Yeah, that's more accurate actually. I like that. Because I didn't like getting in trouble, but I usually found myself in trouble. So yeah, where did God take me and how did he transform, that squirrely little kid, right?
yeah,
So it kind of started my junior year, going into my junior year of high school at Hume Lake. Hume always had a huge
yeah.
impact on my life, and Hume, what we went on a one-on-one time with God with the one of the lead counselors, and our group just so happened to be the one that goes on the trail by the lake, and I was so excited. I was like, wow, I get to like spend, we're kind of like forced to do like one-on-one time with
Right.
God. And I was like, man, like this is awesome because I don't do this in everyday life. And so I chose to keep walking the trail until I got to the edge of the lake where you would turn right towards the cove, and
I
just
know
looking
that
out
spot very well.
the bench right there.
Yep.
That's where I was. Yeah, I sat right down on that bench and prayed to God and like, what do you want with my life? What do you want me to do? And it seemed like the past 3 months prior to that, I was feeling a kind of a tug on my heart to go towards ministry. And it's like, no, I don't feel like I would, fit in ministry. I don't feel like I'm, built for ministry. I feel like I stumble on my words, etc. Um, and wow, I felt and heard the voice of God saying that I was supposed to be a leader in his church, a youth pastor, at least one day. So yeah, that's where I kind of started the journey.
Yeah.
From that point, of course, there wasn't transformation right there in that point. There definitely was a transforming in my mind, but outwardly I still was acting immaturely and didn't necessarily implement that mentality yet. It seemed to be more when I got out of high school, after I met Caitlin and really grew in my walk, learned how to be a leader, understood what it was like to be a leader in a relationship as well, and going through struggles in a relationship. Understanding, I have to be a leader. I have to be a man, a man full of integrity and chasing after God. And so my transformation kind of started at the age of 19, when we started to do a young adults group in Auburn. And I was
Uh-huh.
led by my future brother-in-law, Jason Camacho, who's
I love it.
actually the youth pastor um, at First Baptist Church of Auburn. And at that point, I finally started to read the Bible on my own. And I was like, wow, I'm like actually like intentionally reading it and I'm loving it. And that was like one of the first times in my life I really realized I had been reading the Bible because I thought it was a chore and not,
Mm.
for a love, for a passion. And so for me, I was, really transformed at that moment, realizing I'm an infant. I feel like an infant. And I actually like went back to the passage in First Peter that we went through, that series that you took us through. I remember you talking about that, leading us through it, talking about how First Peter is one of your favorites.
It is,
Um,
still is.
like a infant needs milk. And that's the way that I felt. I was like, wow, I'm starting fresh, starting new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Tanner, to kind of jump into that a little bit, I if I kind of give my perspective on you, and we can have, I love this because you and I can have these kinds of conversations with
Yes, we
the
can.
10 other people that are watching along right now. Um, but um, one of the things that I always absolutely loved about you and knew was either going to be one of the best things for you or your biggest
Mhm,
downfall was your
mhm.
passion. like
Yeah.
like
Yep.
you were completely passionate about everything, and jumped all in. And
Mhm.
I'll I always remember at camp you would stand up in front of everybody and like, I'm going to be a youth pastor, I'm going to change
Yep.
the world for God, I'm going to do all the things that you
Yep.
would say you were going to do. And I remember as a youth pastor thinking, either you are going to fly literally, or like you're gonna fall flat on your face, like
Yep.
it's not
Absolutely.
gonna be an in between.
Yeah, and like for me, before we get into that passage, I've thought about the different times where you've pulled me aside. I remember I actually told my small group this past week because our discussion and our passage was on confession
Hmm.
in prayer. And a lot of students were convicted, and it was super, super awesome, very, very healthy. Honestly, one of the most fruitful nights
Hmm.
I've had, personally as a small group leader. But I just remember confessing to the youth group I was struggling with lust. I was like, man,
Yeah,
I'm
I
really,
remember
really
that.
struggling. And Josh Tapp took me outside after and just talked to me like, you're not alone in this. Like, you're not like rejected. You're not looked any different. You're actually seen as like strong. And that was like, holy cow, like an eye opener. But I remember after that, you would always try to keep me accountable. You would always come to me and talk to me. And when it came to being a youth pastor and telling you about that, you're like, Tanner, are you doing this because you like me so much? And I think back to those moments, and you were keeping my heart in check.
Hmm.
And I really appreciate those moments when you would take me aside and like check my heart. Like, are you doing this because you really like doing announcements on stage, Tanner? You really like wanting to be seen on stage, and I see that in you. Goodness gracious, you were spot on. But I was like, oh no, I don't
Well,
want to
that's
do that.
because I knew somebody just like that in my own self many years ago. So maybe not so many years ago. So I know that little pitfall. I've played
Yeah.
that one out a few times myself.
Yep. Yep.
Oh
No,
man.
good stuff, man.
Well, it is really good stuff, and I think my mind always goes back to the seeds, the
Mm,
the the seeds, that the ones that kind of go along the path,
mhm,
the ones that get on rocky soil, and I think it was that the ones along the path there that sprout up real quickly,
mhm. Yeah.
and that was like, I always thought, I'm like, oh man, I want Tanner to be grounded, because if he gets rooted and grounded, like
Mm,
his faith is going to be like you're just not going to be able to stop what God's going to do through him,
amen.
but there are early indications like, well, it can kind of be that seed along the path, but
Yeah.
I think that maybe something that's pretty amazing is you have an amazing support network around you,
Yes, I do.
like of godly people that, all I can say is like God's placed those people around you. And
Yep.
maybe even before we touch on First Peter, like, I know another area that's been hugely influential in your life has been CYT.
Yes. Yeah. CYT. Um, I met Caitlin there. And so
Which is Tell everyone what CYT is for anyone that happens
Yes,
to be
sorry,
watching
I should
along.
have spelt that out. Christian Youth Theater.
Christian Youth Theater. There we go.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So Caitlin and I met there, and that's kind of where we got connected and started to get to know each other better. We also knew each other because I knew her dad from a long time ago, from him coaching against my brothers in basketball, because he was the coach at Forest Lake.
Yes, the rival schools.
Yeah, yeah. And so
You went
he,
to Victory, right?
yes, yeah, and then he eventually came to Victory my sophomore year to coach because he had left Forest Lake, and he came for a year. But he was living in Grass Valley and coming all the way to
Oh, yuck.
Carmichael. So he only did that for a year. But he was the one that pulled me up to varsity my sophomore year for playoffs, and yeah, and Caitlin and I kind of got reconnected, that way. So CYT, yeah, CYT is just incredible for the both of us. We became teachers there, teaching. I teach more the visual arts side. Since I'm into photography and videography, I taught my videography class for the first time before COVID hit, and then we went online
And then you went on, and then you go
when
right
COVID did hit.
online. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
interesting season. But yeah, CYT, our church is great. And we've just gotten closer to our congregation. We've understood the culture, better. I think getting there first, we're like, this is kind of odd because we were coming from Sunrise. I was coming from Sunrise, and then which back in the heyday was over like 3,000 people. So
Felt like it, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think combined with both services, pretty close to that number. Um, and then we're going to a church that's 50 people, and kind of
Oh man.
older, the demographic is definitely different. And it was an adjustment, but we love our church. That's definitely great. The young adults group grew us as a couple, individually. Just great. Yeah, great support group. My parents are awesome. Love my parents. Her
I love
parents.
your parents too. Jeff and Lori are like the real deal. And
Mhm.
I don't say that because I know they'll be watching this, um but they truly are the real deal, like genuine salt of the earth kind of people that you
Yeah.
want in your life. Um and you know what comes to my mind, Tanner, is and I don't have the book sitting right here in front of me, but there was not just a book, but a whole kind of movement called Sticky Faith that went out there, and they did a lot of research into what's happening, why are college students falling away from the Lord. Why does someone grow
For
up in a
one.
youth group
Yeah.
and graduate from high school and disappear from the church?
Yeah.
And the big thing that they came back with was, for the young people that carried on a lasting faith, they usually had 5 adults
Mm.
of influence, of spiritual influence in their life. That
Yeah.
and sometimes that included their parents, sometimes that was in addition to their parents.
Mhm.
And I think that was one of those things with you that I looked at and go, the great thing for Tanner is he's got a lot of like godly Christian men and women who absolutely love him
Yes.
and are gonna guide and direct him along the way.
That's so right, because I still feel connected to my people at Sunrise.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that you mentioned Josh Tapp. Like, that guy is
love
absolutely
Josh.
amazing.
Guy's crazy, but I love him.
Well, yeah, and he still is crazy too.
I don't know how he sells homes, but he does it.
He got me a nice refi, so there you go. If you all want to, a little today's Backshed is sponsored by Mortgage Bankers Acceptance Corporation.
Yes.
Um,
Good plug. I like it.
the only problem is it's not brought that way.
No.
It's brought to you by Sunrise Community Church.
Amen.
Okay, so you mentioned First Peter. Tell me about that. Let's
Yes, let's open it up.
open that up,
Should
y'all.
be
This is
First
called the
Peter.
Backshed Bible Study. We might as well study the Bible.
That's right. It's good stuff, man. It should be, First Peter 1, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love this whole passage. I got to study this one. I studied this one for a whole year. So,
Mhm.
um, okay, let's get back. What were we talking about? What brought us to First Peter?
We were going for actually it might be no, it's not First Peter 2, but it was about the infants. I felt like an infant.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. I was looking at um, royal priesthood and things like
Mm,
that. Yeah,
mm.
yeah, yeah. Anyone else out there?
Oh, it
In
is
this?
it is First Peter 2. It
Okay,
is
here
First
we
Peter
go.
2, yeah.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, right there at the beginning. Therefore,
Mhm.
rid yourselves of all malice, all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, slander of every kind, like newborn babes. Crave spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation.
Mm,
Now that you have tasted that the Lord is good.
mm.
Um, gosh. Um, but we can keep on getting in there. But you talked about well, let's go with this. This is going to be a little spontaneous, all right?
Always.
Uh, let's talk about um, what it means to crave spiritual milk,
Mm,
right? Like
it's a good
what
question.
did that look like for you as someone who, as you're starting to mature in your faith, and like you were saying, you want to spend more time, you started reading and studying the word.
Yeah,
And what was that whole process like, going from the word being this thing that your pastor is saying, you should read your Bible, pray, and
yeah,
go to church, tell your friends about Jesus, and
yeah,
everything's going to be great, to that point where you're like getting up in the morning like, I need the word, like
yeah.
I desire this. Like, what, tell me about that.
Yeah, well, the mindset is definitely that it's a process, and I think that's kind of what you think about. You think about, infants. They need to start out with, that foundation, which is the milk, until they can choose solid foods and kind of, grasp onto ideas better. And I,
Yeah,
I mean, I think I necessarily like I knew ideas and I knew certain ideologies about scripture and about Jesus, but I didn't necessarily have that consistent flow of reading the word. So I think when it came to starting back up again, starting to actually like read the Bible with a new
yeah.
understanding and a new desire, I think it brought me to want the meat and want the solid food. So it became a process of that desire to, grow up, that desire to, um, you know, understand God better.
Well, and I think that part of spiritual immaturity is seeing the whole deal and wanting that immediately, like
Hmm.
instant gratification. And it's
Yeah.
almost like the camp experience that says,
Yeah.
if I make a decision at camp, then presto, everything's great for the rest of my life.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
I've seen so many testimony videos of kids that
Mm.
go to camp and they're like, I'm going to stop sinning effective now. And like, yeah, right, you are. Wait till
Yeah.
you
I went through that about 8 years. It didn't it didn't happen.
right. but
Yeah.
but this is what I love, as
Mm.
chapter 2 in First Peter here carries on a little bit. In verse 4, he says, as you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, and here's the key, are being built into a spiritual house.
Mm.
Like, it's not like you are a spiritual house.
You're
It
building
is,
that house.
you're being built into a spiritual
Hmm.
house, right?
Hmm.
And he's like, let's see here, being in his house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Christ. And then he goes to quote out of Isaiah
Yeah.
28, where he says, see,
Hmm.
I lay in a stone in Zion, a
Mm.
chosen and precious cornerstone. Now that is cool too, to me, is, the building starts at the cornerstone and then goes out, and they build up from that
Yeah.
cornerstone.
Yeah.
uh,
There's a foundation, and
right.
Yeah, specifically, I'm sure Isaiah was talking about Jesus, but I mean that
Right.
is
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
foundation, our foundation as a home that we're being built up into, the spiritual house. I mean, we are temples,
Hmm.
so I think that's kind of the imagery that we look at with this passage, is understanding that we are in the process of building up. I think James talks about it in James 1 2 through should be 4 or 5. It's talking about that it's leading, your trials and your hardships are leading to completion and
Yeah.
perfection. And so
Yeah, and April and I are always joking about how, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kind, because the testing of
mm,
your faith develops perseverance.
yeah.
And we always joke that our kids are pure joy.
Yeah.
Um, 'Cause
There.
sometimes they are our trials, right?
Yes. Yep. Yep. I will be learning that here pretty soon. One
What,
day.
you're having kids?
No. No. Not yet.
Okay, what are you doing before that, Tanner?
I'm getting married.
Yeah, you are. I'm
For
so
the people that
excited
are
for
just
you.
showing up, they're like, huh? What is Cliff?
I'm
This is one
sorry.
of your students? You were I should have given context at least for that. There's people
No,
that
that was way
pop
too
on.
much fun.
I'm usually one of those people that pops on, and so I'm sure there's some people popping on now that are like, huh?
Like, who is this guy?
Is he reading the word or
Oh. So, okay, how old are you now? You 22?
22 now?
Oh my goodness, gosh, that means I'm old. Um, uh,
Not old.
you're getting married in May.
Yes, I am.
You are getting married to Caitlin.
Yes.
She is absolutely wonderful. By the way, I am very sorry I don't get to go to your wedding. I am going to be in Washington, D.C.,
I heard.
hopefully, with my
Mhm.
son doing a DC
Yep.
trip. So,
Understood.
um,
Life.
but uh, man, you're planning a wedding in the middle of the pandemic. How was
Mhm.
that?
It's been like the pandemic, a roller coaster.
Right?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. It teaches you a lot. But it's growing us for sure.
Yeah. And so plans beyond you guys are going to get married and you're going to keep doing Moody.
Yep.
Um,
So I
and how far
graduate
are you
next year.
into your Moody study?
Yeah, I graduate next spring. So it's awesome. I'm excited. I'm actually supposed to be starting up my new quarter tomorrow. So half the semester next.
You're okay. You're making me nostalgic right now. So I'm gonna find some photos here. We'll do a little screen share because you all know I like to screen share.
Let's
I
do it.
was showing this one of Tanner a little bit earlier.
Look at that
Um,
baby.
so was this going into your senior year? Is this what this was?
This is going into the senior year.
Yeah, so we
Mhm.
took the student leaders up to Donner,
Yeah.
and I had always wanted to go in the tunnels up there, the train tunnels. So that's you
Mm.
right up there on top of
Yep.
the train tunnels, looking down, looking back towards Donner Pass.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to find here, and this is a good enough picture of people that were on that trip. But here we go. Like let's look at who some of these people are
Yep.
that are here and where they are now. I mean, Jonah is like going to grad school. I think he's getting his master's in
He's
England
a
right now
he's a
or something.
beast. Yeah. I think he's
I
back in the States, but he definitely was yeah, he was in England, I think,
Yeah, and
last semester.
I just heard that Jasmine is going to applying for grad school. How crazy is that?
Wow.
Although I don't think she's in this picture. And
You know,
Emily Moxley right there finishing up at Liberty.
yep.
Um,
It's Alex.
Alex Hall. Alex is back playing on a lot of Sunday mornings. He's with us leading worship there at Sunrise.
That is awesome.
Um,
Good
but
stuff.
we took you guys through a little is the audio coming through on this?
It is for me.
Okay. We took you guys through this maze thing, and we made you all speak Spanish to
I
do
didn't.
this.
I didn't know Spanish. That was. She touched the rope. It's over. Oh, Independence, Indy.
Oh my goodness.
I just saw her.
We might be good to just stop this video at this point. Yeah, Indy's got accepted into nursing school. I just saw the other day.
Good for her. Good for her.
Okay, I'm
Thankful
sorry.
you
Now I
accepted
start to
that.
get way too nostalgic, so I gotta stop. Hey, look at that! Jeff and Lori Coppernoll's on here watching.
What?
Are they in the other room?
No, I kicked them out. No, I'm kidding.
That's good. Oh well, Tanner, as we let's wrap up here in a couple minutes. But
Okay.
one of the things that I would love for you to kind of help us with. So I'm this Gen X guy. I'm 51, turning 52 this year.
Staying
I
young.
never thought I would be older, but I am, and my hair tells me I am, and my children remind me of it often. But you're kind of the tail end of the millennials, beginning of the Gen Z,
I am.
and you've been around church long enough where we have a lot of boomers and Gen X people like me, and
Yeah.
I hopefully you never use the phrase "okay, boomer," but if you do, I forgive
No.
you.
No.
What can we as churches be doing to better understand your generation?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's like the $100,000
Yeah.
question right there.
Cliff's always got the challenging questions. Man, better understand. The easy answer would just is say research, but there's no real way to research. I guess the best way to understand is to unify as best as
Mm,
you can. I think a lot of us we divide age groups even within the church, and that even comes to races, to
yeah,
to age groups, genders, whatever it may be. We find ourselves dividing, um, and we're supposed to be a church that's unified. Paul says that in First Corinthians, and so I think what we would have to do then is to not necessarily have like this cultural divide in a sense, and do your best to get to know people that are that age and to
yeah.
spend time. I think quality of time is a beautiful love language that allows you to understand generations better. And there's people that are different in the millennial community, but I think when it comes to trying to understand a group, what you're trying to do is you're trying to not cause a divide. You're trying to unify, and that's the goal. That's why you're trying to understand them. And so I would say to shoot for that, go for that door that's wide open, and try to get to know people more in that community, because I think we do get too caught up sometimes spending time with people that are around our age and
That are
around our
just like us.
groups. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think we get so caught up in those groups that we kind of forget about these other age groups and etc. Um, that might cause that to happen.
I think you're spot on with that. I really do. And the best thing about what you just said is I didn't need to spend $20 to buy a book to tell me a bunch of research that said something that was kind of a duh kind of thing,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's love people, duh. I
Mhm.
mean, be around people, duh.
Mhm.
Um, show people
You're
that
the
they matter,
problem.
right? Well, and I think one of the tragedies, no, gosh, that's a strong statement, but when when I was younger, they they really sought to divide everybody up by demographic,
Yep.
and it was like, let's have a skateboard ministry so we can reach the skaters. Let's
Mm.
have, the uh, I don't know. I was going to say something obnoxious, but we have all these different specialized ministries to
Yeah.
reach every single little demographic, and we have people
Sure.
so split up that we have lost the beauty of a very diverse church where we learn from
Yeah.
each other.
And that's the beauty about diversity. And I was actually looking back because I just got done taking a class on church culture, and so which helped me appreciate Sunrise's culture and the direction that the foundation that you guys have there is awesome. It's great. But looking back at Sunrise and seeing kind of the diverse demographic, we were able to understand people in the way that their culture kind of is. And that's the beauty of having diversity in churches, is that you have all of these different um you know types of people coming into a church, and you're like, oh, I never understood that about this culture, or these people. And
Or just this age group. I think
yeah.
we've kind of beat this one till it's become a dead horse, of doing things intergenerationally,
Hmm.
of doing everything we can to try to have multiple generations together at once, going through, I mean, experiencing spiritual growth together, and
Right.
all that.
Yeah.
um so, again, I think what you have to say is quite profound, and yet incredibly simple.
Yeah.
um it's not, again, Donna is making fun of me for saying duh. But it's just well, duh. It's like, hang out
Yeah.
with people and love them, and regardless of their age and
Right.
what color they are, or what language they speak, or any of that. Or
Red and yellow, black and white.
right. I
Jesus loves the
Oh
whole family of the
man,
world. Simple but profound.
but profound.
It's like the word. It's very,
Oh man,
very profound.
Tanner, I love it. I love that we got to do this today.
Ah, it went by so quickly.
It went by so quickly. I know it always does, and I
Yeah.
always get accused of not landing the plane. So I am going
How
to
dare you?
do my best to try to land this plane. Um, but it's really fun. I'm excited to see who you are. Uh, it I think as youth pastors, one of the crazy challenges for us has always been, you graduate someone off into college, or at least out of high school, and then you just don't see them for years.
Right.
And you wonder, like, did this do it any good? Did
Mhm.
how's God working? So it's just
Mhm.
really cool for me personally. I could care less what everybody else thinks right now. But it's cool for me today to
Yeah.
just see you, to hear you, like, just
Right.
talk about how God's been faithful, and how he's moving in your life, and
Mm. It's been
things you've
awesome.
learned along the way.
It's
This has
been
been
good
really
stuff.
cool. Yeah.
Yes. I love spending time with my Cliff. I
Oh man.
could talk for hours.
Donna loves flying with me on this journey. It's an adventure. I've almost crashed several times, Donna, just so you know, in my actual piloting. Not several times, twice.
I remember those stories. The one
Two
with
times. Two
April.
times. Once with my girlfriend. Not
It
even were
was.
we She was my fiance at the time. Flew her into a cloud.
I remember you
Not a
telling
good
us
day.
this.
Another time I almost
Yeah.
crashed Dan Fadling's airplane. That was an
No.
adventure in Menominee, Wisconsin, of all places.
Oh my goodness.
I'll get Dan on here. That'll be another story for another day.
Dan's awesome.
Dan's a great guy. Tanner, let's close this thing in prayer. I'll go through a couple more little announcements about what we're doing over the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
And hey, how can we be praying for you?
Yeah, pray for direction in my life.
Hmm.
I think, as especially people, and you probably know plenty about this, with the things that you've gone through, about praying for God's direction and trying to see clearly, where he's trying to take you. I think direction is probably one of the best places when it comes to, where my future wife and I are going to live. What God has in store for me when it comes to career wise. Where does it
Yeah.
where do I land the plane, at a church. And because I'm very passionate about that. I'm hungry for it, So I'm just patiently waiting, which, patience means long suffering. So
Long suffering. You've been
suffering,
learning something, haven't you?
yeah. Suffering
Oh,
long. So I'm very eager for that. So patience as well. Pray
yeah.
for more patience, even though patience is going to be hard to learn. Yeah, even more. Um, yeah, patience. I'd say finances, of course. I think anybody could need prayer for finances, and then just ministry overall. I have my online ministry, and have the ministry at AGCC, and at First Baptist as well.
Yeah. That's a lot going on. And
Tons of stuff.
so, and you're getting married. So,
Me adventure for sure.
all right, let me pray.
Mm.
Father, thank you so much for Tanner. I am just grateful for this time. It's fun to be with a friend. It's fun to just see how you have taken Tanner and you continue to raise him up and grow him in you. I thank you for great foundations in his life, for his mom and dad, for
Mhm.
the Camachos, for people like Josh Tapp that can come alongside at the right time, and as you continue to place people like that in his life, I also pray for how you will use him in other people's lives and already are, um, to do that exact same thing. Thanks for his all the ministry that he's got going on, whether it's at AGCC or up in Auburn, First Baptist, and even through his podcast and various things that he's doing, Lord, that he would be filled with your Holy Spirit, that he would
Mhm.
listen to what you have to say. I pray that he would trust you completely for the future, in regard to what's going to come next, what a official career looks like,
Mhm.
and just pray for that direction, and then also for you to just work in his marriage with Caitlin, and I
Yeah.
pray that you would protect them,
Mhm.
really bind them together, protect their marriage. May it be just a sacred union that
Mhm.
between them and you.
Yeah.
Um, and oh Lord, would you just do a mighty work in the name of
Mhm.
Jesus? I pray this. Amen.
Amen. That's one way to land a plane.
I
Amen.
know, man. Well, this is fun. Look at this, David Smith. Okay, I've got to read a couple of these comments because people are
Do it.
popping all on here. Tanner, you've grown into a fine young man. Your parents must be proud of you. Um,
Gonna make me blush over here.
yeah, Wayne's telling Donna that you're 22.
I am.
Um, so anyway,
Love it.
it's fun. Next week, I'm having on an old friend, Jenna Silva, is going to be on here next week, and Jenna is the daughter of Mike Silva, who's a evangelist, traveling evangelist, and
Mm.
Jenna's worked with Luis Palau, and
Wow.
she's just spectacular. I'm excited to let you all know about Jenna, my friend, and she is going to be quite insightful, I believe. And so that'll be next week. The week after that is the Passion Week. So
Mm.
I'm debuting the Backshed Bible Study Passion Week edition.
Love it.
And we're going to be on every day during Easter week, starting Monday and going all the way through Friday. And each day we will focus on and it's going to be short. It's going to be like 10 minutes, 15 max. So it'll be more like a short devotional each day. And we'll
Land the
focus on,
plane, Cliff. Land the
I'm,
plane.
I'm trying, but we'll focus on what's happening that day in the Passion Week, in the
Mm.
last week of Jesus's life on earth. So that's
Yeah.
going to be the Backshed Passion Week edition. Week after
Awesome.
that, I'm going to have my friend Titus Dinkins, who is a, gosh, how do I describe him? An Alaskan bush pilot. He currently lives in Thailand and is working with Free Burma Rangers and going into Burma and doing some things there. Can't really tell exactly what that's all about, but if you Google Free Burma Rangers, you'll get something really fun there. So so the next several weeks of Backshed are going to be a lot of fun. Titus Dinkins, we have to record separately because otherwise he would be joining on at about 3 a.m. with his time zone. So we're
wow. Goodness.
There you go. I have sufficiently entertained us for today. Not really.
Proud of you.
Tanner, thanks for joining me, my friend. It is an absolute blessing to have been here this morning with you for episode 49. The rest of you, love you. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.